الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولا تموتن وإلا وأنتم مسلمون صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is the fifth majlis in this series of majalis under the topic of understanding the objectives of Ashura. Thus far, I have been able to recite the verse from Surah Al-Imran 85, and tonight I recited for you ayat number 102 from Surah Al-Imran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this book on numerous occasions have addressed in reference to how it is an important aspect of our life that we need to sometimes do certain things in order to bring reform. If you remember, I want to pick up from last night's discussion where we left off. We were talking about the 5 objectives that I had mentioned that we believe, of course there are many, countless objectives that Imam Hussain ﷺ had. But we summarized into these 5 objectives. The first one was the revival of the religion and reform of the ummah. Now these two are very simple words. We all understand what revival means and we all understand what reform means. Revival is when something has lost its originality and the shape has been distorted that sometimes it's very difficult to recognize it. Something similar happened to Islam. By the time Yazid is on the seat of ruler and hakim, Imam ﷺ uttered these words. Imam Hussain said, "Ala al-Islami as-salam. إذ قد بليت الأمة براع مثل يزيد." He said, "Ala al-Islam was-salam." In other words, when you say in Arabic, when you depart, when you're leaving, you say, "Was-salam, ma'as-salam." You bid farewell. Imam is bidding farewell to Islam. He said, "Ala al-Islami as-salam." And we use the similar slang in Urdu as well. That, iska to was-salam, iska to khuda hafiz. Meaning that there's no hope. Al-Islam as-salam. One, إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةُ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ. When the ummah is facing a leader in the form of Yazid. لا يبقى من الإسلام إلا اسمه. Imam said there will nothing remain from the religion of Islam except the name Islam. People will go around calling themselves to be Muslims, yet no idea what Islam is. So Imam says, لا يبقى من الإسلام إلا اسمه ولا يبقى من القرآن إلا رسمه. And nothing of Quran will remain except the Rasmul Khat, the book that we have. And if we were like Turkey, then even the Rasmul Khat would be gone as well. You know, up until the Ottoman, only 100 years ago, the Rasmul Khat, the text was all Arabic. It was influenced by Arabic, and it was all written in using the same alphabets of Arabic. A few extra, just like Farsi has a couple of extra alphabets than Arabic, just like Urdu has a few extra alphabets that Arabic doesn't. But the original core, 26, are taken from the Arabic. Turkish has the same. But they removed it, and now they use the Roman or the Latin or the English letters, and I'm sure many of the people from that part of the world don't know how to read Arabic anymore. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said, nothing of Islam will remain except the name. Nothing of Quran will remain except the khat, Rasmul Khat, the text. When إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةُ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ. When ummah is facing challenges in a form that Yazid is the ruler. So in that reference, we had mentioned Imam ﷺ revived the religion. There was this revival needed, and the example of surgery we had given. I don't know how much that sat with you guys, but nonetheless, got the point across. That how other Imams didn't go forth with it. Only Imam Hussain did. And then we said, one of the ways that you and I can also revive the teachings, because we also have gone far away from our madhab. When it comes to the basic practices, how hard it is for our parents to get the young ones to start practicing the religion. And we've said it numerous times. Today, I received a call from one of the elderly, most senior members from our New Jersey community. Not necessarily from Masjid, but from New Jersey community. And he said, Maulana, emphasize on ibadat. You can talk all about the social issues, what kids are facing on social media, in their schools, in their colleges, at their workplace. But this man, I believe he has a vision, and respected that he asked me, he says, speak about ibadat. I said, we've done this so many times. I had the same take as you might be right now. Haven't we talked about ibadat so much already? Salat, namaz, fasting, hajj, zakat, khums. And then don't limit the ibadat only to these things. The scope of ibadat is beyond all of this. Listen now. If the younger generation can hold on to the ibadat and the worship and the servitude, then they'll be able to cope with the other challenges that are outside. Because it's very simple. In reference to the salat, the ayat of Quran, you all have it memorized, inshallah. Or if not, you should memorize it. I'll read a couple of times tonight so you get the opportunity to memorize it. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. That indeed salat keeps you away from evil and indecency. And of course, salat that is performed with hudur qalb, with proper attention, with proper understanding. Not a salat where my eyes are on the clock and on my watch, and I'm disturbed and distracted by things that are happening around me. And because it's a wajib that my parents said you have to pray, I have to get it done with, no matter what. Now, that salah will not be that beneficial. But when you pray with all of the other aspects of it fulfilled, then definitely this salat is something which can keep you away from fahsha and munkar, indecency and evil. A lot of time people question, no, Maulana, we've seen so many people, they're very muttaqi and parhezgar and they pray, yet they do wrong as well. Does that mean salat, about it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, that it keeps you away from evil and indecency? That means there's something wrong with this ayat? No, nothing wrong with the ayat. Ayat is going to fulfill the promise. And I like to give an example of an Ivy League college. So many people get enrolled into our Princeton University. But not everybody graduates from that Ivy League or comes out, flashing and gaining some maqam or some place. Not everybody. Does that mean there's something wrong with the university? No, university has been around for over 500 years, 400 years. One of the most prestigious universities in the world. So it doesn't have anything to do with the university. It's about the individuals who attend it, what they did in it, and how they were able to attain that knowledge which was being given over there. You could have students in the same class, but different levels. So salat cannot be blamed over here. It's our attitude toward it. When you look at the ibadat in general, because this Buzurg had given me the instructions, I wanted to, in the beginning, go through with it to somehow tie it with my lecture. And inshallah, every night, I will mention a little bit about it. That every ibadat, there's benefit in it for us. This is where it responds to the atheists as well. That Allah doesn't need anything from you, then why are you praying? Allah doesn't need anything from you, then why are you worshipping? Now, we're not worshipping Allah because He is in need, na'udhu billah. He's ghani, without any need. He's azim, He's aziz. He doesn't need anything. When we pray, it benefits us, not Him. It's only beneficial to you and I. When you stand up in this form, when you read those certain things, when you bow, when you prostrate, all of this is benefiting you. When you keep the time in respect and you're punctual about it, all of that is helping you. The scholars have given examples. If you build your house away from the direction of the sun, where you get no sunlight, does that decrease anything from the sun? No, you are depriving yourself from the sunlight. Sun doesn't lose anything. And similar is the case over here. Our Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, topped it when he gave this example about salat. He said, إِذَا كَانَ عَلَى دَارِ أَحَدِكُمْ نَهْرٌ. Imagine if there was a body of water outside your house. فاغتسل فيه من كل يوم 5 مرات. And if you were to dive into this body of water 5 times a day, أيبقى في الجسم من الدرن شيء? Will there remain any sort of impurity on your body? If you were to dive into water 5 times a day, will there remain any dirt on your body? All of them responded, no. Rasulullah says, Salat is the same way. When you stand up to pray 5 times a day, it cleanses you internally, purifies you internally. It does that concept of tazkiyah nafs. The purity of your soul happens through it. And then you look at other ibadat. You come to month of Ramadan, you fast. Regarding this fast in Surah Baqarah, that ayat that talks about the concept of fasting, what does it end with? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Fasting is obligatory so that you may do what? You may become muttaqi. Muttaqi is someone who's away from evil and indecency. So one of the reasons for this ibadat is also what? To keep you away from haram. To keep you away from anything that is leading you towards haram, evil or indecency. When it comes to Hajj, one act of Hajj. Now, if you look at the entire Hajj, it'll take me forever to explain the entire Hajj over here. But just one part of Hajj, which all of us do, even though we don't go to Hajj. That's how important that part is. Even when you have not gone to Hajj, you still do it. Have you ever seen anyone do tawaf of Kaaba? Unless it's a mock Hajj. No. When tawaf is going on over there, you don't do tawaf over here. Have you ever seen anyone doing sa'i between Safa at home? No, you don't duplicate or replicate sa'i over here. Has anyone seen anyone striking shaitan at home, imitating what is done over there on the day of Ramiya Jamarat? No. Have you seen anyone shave their head? No. None of those things that are part of Hajj are duplicated over here, are there? No. Except one. Which one? Qurbani. Right? Mustahab. It's not wajib. Mustahab. In fact, when I said it to someone that it is mustahab, they couldn't believe me. They thought it was wajib to do qurbani, to sacrifice an animal on the day of Yawmul Nahar or Eidul Adha. Yeah, because there was so much emphasis laid upon it. That's just one act out of 13 acts that you have to do in order to complete the Hajj. There are 13 acts. Only one out of 13, regarding which Quran says what? لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُهُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. You know the sacrifice that you give? The blood doesn't reach Allah. The flesh doesn't reach Allah. What reaches Allah is your taqwa, your khulus, your sincerity. Once again, what is taqwa? Piety is when you refrain from haram. That's what piety is. So when you look at salat as an ibadat, it is there to keep you away from haram. When you look at fast as an ibadat, it's there to go ahead and keep you, protect you from haram. When you look at one action of the entire Hajj, it is there to protect you from committing haram. So I guess ibadat is important. No doubt about it. We need to make sure that we are able to transfer the ibadi aspect of our religion to our children. Maulana, my son doesn't pray, but he never lies. What kind of comparison is that? Alhamdulillah, he doesn't lie. That's a very good thing. He never lies, but he doesn't pray either. These two things don't have anything that should be compared with. You shouldn't lie. But you can't say you don't lie on the expense of not praying, or vice versa. Someone says, I pray, what if I lie sometimes? That's wrong as well. I pray, what if I backbite sometimes? That's also wrong. You can't have one on the expense of the other. So you get this a lot. Of course, parents are trying to protect their kids. But I've said it many times because you guys hear me all the time throughout the year. So sorry for repeating. I've said it many times, right from this very minbar. How do you teach something to someone? By doing it yourself. By setting the example yourself. If you don't do it, guess what? They might learn from some external source, which is good. But that tarbiyat that was needed from the initial source is lacking. All the good that this deen has for us, let's make sure that we are able to transfer that to our kids. All the things that this deen is keeping us and refraining us and stopping us from, let us make sure that we don't transfer that into our children. That's as simple, easier said than done. That if you pray at home, because you're not here in the masjid all the time, if you pray at home, the children will pray as well. If you're showing importance to fast, the children will not make excuses of not fasting. If you are always on top of your finances when it comes to khums and zakat, and you teach them from very young age, the gifts that you receive, a lot of people question, is there any khums on the gift? There's no khums unless a year passes by. So if the gift money stays with you for an entire year, teach the kids. They receive money on the day of Eid. Spend it in the year if you want to. Stay away from giving khums. But no, teach them. Take 20% out of it. But how can I teach my kids to take 20% out of it when I myself is running away from this? When we talk about history, which is important, we said the other day, history teaches us a great deal. You hear about jihad and how from the battlefield people used to run away. Battle of Uhud is a prime example. Many of the prominent companions, they fled. The ayat came down because they thought Rasulullah was dead. And the moment they realized that Rasulullah is dead, or they heard the rumor, what did they start doing? Retreating. They started running away. Aftermath of the battle, the ayat was revealed. Rasulullah recited this ayat to them. He went up on the minbar after the battle, speaking especially to those who ran away. Afa in mata aw qutila inqalabtum ala aqabikum. If Prophet was to die, or if he was killed, are you going to turn your heels back? Go back to your days of jahiliyyat? Are you going to run away? He will eventually die. But that doesn't mean once he dies, Islam dies with him. Religion is dead with him. No. You're not supposed to turn your heels. So it's a big crime. It's haram to run away from the battlefield. So we speak about those who used to run away from the battlefield. That's sure. You speak about them. You mock them even if you want to. That there were people who used to run away. When we compare to Amir al-Mu'mineen, who was always with Rasulullah, who always stayed with Rasulullah, when people thought that Rasulullah was killed, it was Ali who lifted Rasulullah and said, Hada Muhammad. Hada Muhammad. Muhammad is alive. Prophet is alive. He's not dead. And so Rasulullah repeated and responded and paid Ali back for what he said in the battle of Uhud. Hada Muhammad. Rasulullah paid him back on the day of Ghadir by saying, Hada Ali. Man kuntu mawla, fahada aliyun mawla. So you and I make fun and mock those who ran away. But let's count together our furu'ideen. You have salat, Saum, Hajj, Zakat, Khums, then what? Jihad. There's a sequence. You have Salat first, then you have Saum, then you have Hajj, then you have Zakat, then you have Khums, then you have Jihad. Jihad is on the 6th marhala, or the 6th level. When people used to run away from Jihad, you mock them and you make fun of them. How many people are running away from the first act, the second act, and the third act today? And therefore, it is important that we're able to transfer. And I said before, the easiest way to teach something to someone is by doing it yourself. The easiest way to make someone not do something is to not do it yourself. If you don't lie, the children won't lie. If you don't use foul language, the children won't use foul language. If you don't, anything, you get the point. So ibadat, I wanted to make sure that I get this point across, is very important. Ibadat is the maqsad of our creation. Ibadat is the reason for which Imam Hussein stood up. Ibadat is what Imam Hussein performed in the battlefield. And we are running away from this ibadat. So therefore, ayat of Quran are filled with it. Ya ayyuhan nas, ittaqullah. O those who believe, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa'abud rabbaka hatta yatiyaka al-yaqeen. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until you get to the certainty. Some people thought that I have reached the level of yaqeen, I don't need to pray anymore. Some people stop praying. They said, Allah said in Quran, وَعَبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. I have reached the level of yaqeen. Do I really need to pray now? I guess not. Quran says, no, you don't have to. They translated the word yaqeen wrong. Yaqeen here doesn't mean certainty that when you come to realize something. Yaqeen here means death. Yaqeen here means death. And one of the scholars gave a good example. He said, when you use a ladder to climb up onto the roof, you don't push the ladder away, because you have to eventually come down. This ladder is that thing which is bringing you up. So that salat is the same way. This ibadat is the same way. Ibadat is the original mahwar and the reason for our creation. I recited this ayat for you. Surah Dhariyat, ayat number 56. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this ayat, He states it as clearly as it can be stated. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah did not create humans and jinns except that they may worship me. Understand, the reason for your creation is ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wajhe khilqati insan is that ibadat. No doubt that Buzurg is emphasizing a great deal on it. As I said, inshallah, I'll touch upon it on an ongoing basis. Let me bring you back. Last night we had talked about the fawaid of majlis, or the reasons why we have majlis. Some people come to majlis for thawab, remember that? I think all of us do. Some people come to majlis for what? for hajat, right? For your hajat, talab hajat. Some people come to majlis to learn the ahkam and the ma'arif, right? And then sometimes you come to majlis to uphold the sha'air and the symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're gathered here to talk about sha'air Husayni, what Imam Hussain ﷺ did. These are 4 common reasons for majlis. But are these the only reasons that we should be coming to the majlis? Or is there another reason which is superior than that? And definitely there's a reason which is superior than that. And that reason is that this majlis should be connecting you with the imam of your time. This majlis should be a means for you to have a better connection with the Hussein of the time. Just like there were many people in the time of Imam Hussein, but only 72 accompanied him. Where was the rest of the ummah? They knew who he was, they believed in him, yet they refrained from following his lead and command. We'll give examples of last night. Today, this majlis should be a preparation for us, a means for us to gear ourselves, to prepare ourselves, number 1, for the arrival of Imam, and number 2, to become that companion of Imam that we always make the dua for. Min ansarihi wa awanihi, right? At the end, you make this dua. Oh Allah, make us the ansar, helpers, awan, helpers, and the soldiers of Imam. We make this dua. If this majlis is turning you away from Imam Zamana, then may God help you. And may God help this majlis. So one of the things that Imam did was to ihya, revive the religion. What are we trying to achieve with this majlis is also to do ihya, to revive our deen, to learn the ma'arif, to understand the ahkam. And the most important act is to connect with Imam of our time. For this, you may have to give sacrifice. You may have to go through some struggles. It's not going to come easy. Nothing is guaranteed easy. You have to struggle for it. When you are given something without hard work, you don't have the same respect for it. And you squander it easily. If you're given a lot of money without having done much work for it, you're going to spend it like that as well. But if you have earned this money with hard work, I'm not saying you're going to become miserly, but you're going to be very careful when you spend it. If this deen is taken lightly, if this deen was given to you and you took it for granted, then you're going to not care for it. And then what about Imam Zamana? Are we going to be alive until then or not? These are some of the sentiments that you get. In order to do Ihya Amr, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. There was a person by the name Ammar ad-Duhni who lived in the time of our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wa salam. Allahumma salli ala. There was a Qazi in his time, because it's the Hukumat of Ahl Sunnah, whose name was Qazi Abu Layla. And this Qazi, not only that he was from Ahl Sunnah, he had grudge for the Shia as well. And so when his case was presented in front of this Qazi, instead of being, neutral about it, he was biased. He threw the case against him, and it didn't go in favor of Ammar ad-Duhni. Of course, Ammar was upset. He knew he had not done anything wrong. He was being accused for something which he hadn't done, or that which it was his was taken away from him. Whatever the case was. That's not the important thing over here. Once that happened, Ammar saw that the case went against him. He showed remorse and he was weeping. The Qadi thought that, that Ammar was showing remorse because of what he had done. But Ammar responded by saying, no. I'm crying for two reasons. Because Qadi said to him, the judge said to him, your case is dismissed because your witness, which you are bringing, you're bringing the witness, is rejected for two reasons. Number one, because you're Shia. And number two, because you're Rafidi. This is documented. You look up Ammar ad-Duhni when you go on tonight, ChatGPT, and you'll get the entire story and all the other dynamics of the story, which I'm skipping right now. And so your witness is rejected because of these two reasons. One, you're Shia. Number two, you're Rafidi. Let me explain to the kids what Rafidi is. I'm sure you've heard this word Rafidi a great deal. You say, what is this Rafidi? Rafidi comes from the word Rafada, which means the one who denies. Rafidi was an istilah terminology associated with the magicians of the time of Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. When Hazrat Musa threw his asa, his cane, and it devoured all the false serpents of the magicians, right away, what did the magicians do? They fell in sajda. And they realized that what Hazrat Musa had done was no magic trick. What he had done was a miracle. What we were doing was merely magic, deceiving, illusion. And that's what it was. But Hazrat Musa's act was no illusion. So a magician was able to understand what Hazrat Musa did was divine. So what did they do? They were the first ones to believe in him. They were the first ones to bow in sajda. And they said, we believe, bring iman on Rabbi Haruna wa Musa. We brought iman on Hazrat Musa's Rabb. Fir'aun, who considered himself to be Rabbukumul A'la, the greatest of the Rabb, he said, I didn't allow you to worship. I didn't allow you to change religion. How dare you go ahead and consider someone else to be a Rabb? I'm your Rabb. I didn't give you permission. So now the magicians had the courage to say to Fir'aun, we don't care. Because they had seen the reality with their own eyes. And so when they denied Fir'aun and his lordship, they were called Rafidi. They were given the title of Rafidi. Guess what? Over the years, Shias were labeled as Rafidi. So if you hear on social media, someone calls you a Rafidi, don't be surprised. They call us Rafidi for other reasons. Because we don't believe in the Khilafat of the Khulafa. And we say, well, you're not the Maktab of Khulafa, we're the Maktab of Imamat. We believe in Imamat. We don't believe in the Khilafat. And this is not something which we can debate and compromise over. We respect you. We respect that you believe in them. And to you, your deen. To us, our deen. Just like that, you should respect that we believe in Imams. We believe that Rasulullah, when he left behind Imamat. You say, well, Rasulullah didn't leave any Imam or Khalifa. The Ummah got together and created a Khalifa. One of the scholars said, Rasulullah spoke about the etiquettes of going to the washroom, clipping your nails, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, and all these things, but he didn't mention about the Khalifa after him. Imagine someone so particular about your grooming, but has no idea or doesn't want to go ahead and leave behind a leader for you when he leaves and departs. No comparison whatsoever. I'm here throughout the year, but whenever I step away, I appoint someone to go ahead and lead Jummah. I'm not going to leave you without a Jummah here. That's on me. So when I don't leave without appointing someone else to go ahead and lead Jummah in this small institution, you think Rasulullah will leave the entire institution without appointing someone who has to lead this ummah? It's not possible. So that is where our debate is, and that is where our ikhtilaf and difference of opinion is. But you keep your belief and we keep our beliefs. But they call us Rafidi because we deny the Khilafat. That's not a maqam. So here, Abu Layla said what? Qadi Abu Layla said, I deny your witness because of two reasons. Number one, you're Shia. Number two, you're Rafidi. Ammar Adohani started crying. And then he mentioned the reason he was crying. He said, the reason I'm crying is not because of what you said. The reason I'm crying is because you associated two attributes to me, which I don't see befitting. You call me Shia. I am nowhere close to being a Shia. You know who Shia is? Shia is Salman, Abu Dhar, Ammar, Miqdad. They were Shia and Ali. Where is their maqam and where am I? Number two, you call me Rafidi. Rafidi were those who stood up against Fir'aun of their time. Their courage, their maqam. Where is their maqam and where am I? And number two, I'm crying because of you, that who made you to be the Qadi? That you don't know the basic rules of judging someone. And therefore, he spoke about imamat. He introduced imamat in that gathering. And then he left. He came back, came to our sixth Imam, and he narrated the entire incident. Imam ﷺ congratulated him that you revived our teachings and I am giving you basharat for Jannat. Thank you. Imam thanked him for reviving our teachings in front of such individuals. It cost you your case. Could have even cost you your life. But you did what is called ihya amr, reviving our teachings. So every one of us has to play that role. There are other stories similar to this, which if I get into, I will not be able to conclude. One more, and inshallah we'll bring you to an end. There's a person by the name Hassan ibn Yusuf ibn Mutahhar. Let's see if you know his title. Anyone? Allama Hilli. Now you know him? His name is Hassan ibn Yusuf ibn Mutahhar. But we've known him from Allama Hilli. Fair enough. You didn't need to know his name. But now you do. So next time you hear this word, Hassan ibn Yusuf ibn Mutahhar, it is referring to Allama Hilli. His jihad. And then his struggle. And what he did. The inqilab that he caused. And that inqilab probably was the reason for the inqilab that happened in that land later on. In his time, there was a sultan who gave his wife talaq. And he said 3 times talaq. Of course, in the Shia madhab, there's no 3 talaqs in one sitting. And right away, he was regretting his decision. So he asked all the ulama. The scholar says nothing can be done. You gave 3 talaqs, you can't go back. Too bad. You should have thought of it before. His advisor said, no, there is one alim who might be able to help you. They brought Allama Hilli. Allama Hilli said, did you give talaq when you were angry? He said, yes. He said, were there any witnesses? He said, no, it was just me and my wife. I got angry and I said, talaq, talaq, talaq. Allama Hilli said, this talaq never took place. You're still married. Don't worry about it. He said, thank you. But I can't just do this without the entire ummah knowing about it. In their mind, the ulama and the scholars, they think, I have divorced my wife. So can you explain to them what you just explained to me? Allah said, sure, no problem. They had a gathering. Sultan, he's sitting with all the other madahib, and the leaders of all the madahib are sitting. And Allama Hilli walks in. Imagine this whole crowd sitting over here. The shurafa and the dignitaries are sitting there. And then walks in Allama Hilli. He walks in and he takes his shoes, which you're supposed to leave in the shoe racks over there. He puts them under his armpit like this, and he walks and comes and sits next to the Sultan. Right away, people in the gathering, what do they start doing? Started laughing. Look, this is the Shia alim. He doesn't have the etiquettes. That you should leave your shoes out there. Why are you bringing your shoes inside? Number one. And number two, you're going and sitting next to a sultan. He's the king of the time. So he wanted to start from that point. So he did that on purpose. He said, why did you do that? He said, I heard there are people who are followers of Imam Abu Hanifa over here. Because these are the 4 schools of thought. And Imam Abu Hanifa, he made up a story. Stole the shoes of Rasulullah. So I wanted to make sure that my shoes aren't stolen. As it is, when you go to masajid, your shoes are stolen. I don't know what's that. Someone walks out with your shoes. It's happened to me a few times. Just like they have a place for Maulana's parking, there should be a rack. Not in this masjid, somewhere else. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. They said, are you crazy? Abu Hanifa was born in the year 80 after Hijrah. Rasulullah died in 11, 70 years before. They said, oh, my bad. Then it must be Imam Malik. And I heard there are followers of Imam Malik here. He said, you probably don't know history. Imam Malik came 20 years after Imam Abu Hanifa. We said, then it has to be Imam Shafi and his followers. He said, Imam Shafi came 150 years after Rasulullah. So there has to be Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He said, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal came 200 years after Rasulullah. So when he got everybody on that point, he said, so that means you follow one of these 4 imams. First one came 70 years later after Rasul. Second one came 100 years after Rasul. Third one came 120 years after Rasul. Fourth one came 200 years after Rasul. They were all puzzled and they were looking. He said, which imam do you follow? I said, I follow the Imamul Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. I follow the imam who was referred to as Nafs Rasulullah. Nafs. In that ayat of Mubahala. Anfusana wa anfusakum. He said, I follow that imam. One of the Maraji of our time, Ayatollah Wahid says, a man walked into a gathering where they were all the followers of Ahl Sunnah, and when he walked out, they were all followers of Ahl Tashayyu. A man walked into this gathering, they performed their previous salat according to the 4 madhahib. When he left that gathering, they all prayed according to the madhab Tashayyu. That's how you do difa. That's how you stand up and you do ihya amr. Muslim ibn Aqil was doing the same thing. He was defending Imam Hussein. Muslim ibn Aqil is the first martyr of Karbala. He's the first one to face the dire and the challenging times that were to come for Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. after Muslim was martyred, he left behind 5 kids. 2 of them were martyred in Karbala. 1 was a daughter, and 2 of them were made captives in the Battle of Karbala. And then they were brought by Ibn Ziyad to Kufa. And then they were thrown into the prison. These are the 2 children that are known as Tiflane Muslim, the 2 children of Muslim. These 2 young kids, they spent an entire year in the prison. And then these kids said to one another, how long are we going to stay in this prison like this? Ibn Ziyad had given instructions to the guard to be very difficult upon them. Don't let them have an easy time when they're in the prison. Don't just give it to them whatever they want at any time. Keeping in mind, these are just merely kids. But nonetheless, after a year passes, one of the kids says that let's have courage to speak to the guard and tell him who we are. Maybe it might change his mind. And then so they gained the courage. When the guard came, they said to him, do you know Rasulullah, Muhammad? He said, yes. How can I not know? He's my Nabi. He said, do you know Ja'far ibn Abi Talib? He said, of course. Ja'far is someone whom Allah gave the wings after he lost both of his hands. He said, do you know Ali ibn Abi Talib? He said, how can I not know Ali? He said, we are the grandkids of Ali. Remember, Muslim's wife was the daughter of Imam Ali. He said, we're the sons of Muslim ibn Aqil. Aqil, who is son of Abu Talib. They are cousins of Rasulullah. The moment this guard heard who these kids were, right away he started weeping. Right away there was change of heart. And he said, how is it possible for me to not know who you were? What a terrible mistake that I have made, and is there anything that I can do to repay? And the 2 kids said that how long are we going to stay in this prison? He said, I'm going to let you leave tonight. No matter what the consequences, I will let you leave tonight. The kids were excited. The man told them, make sure that you travel at night in the dark and you take refuge during the daytime and shelter during the daytime so that nobody can recognize you. If they found out that you have been freed, I will get in trouble and they will eventually find you. The children left that night and they started walking. Of course, they're kids, wandering in the streets of Kufa. They walked until they got tired. And when they couldn't find their way out of the city and where to go and to find help, they ended up in front of a house. They knocked on the door. Seeking some sort of assistance, this lady opened the door. She saw these 2 kids. She said, why are you wandering in the city? Do you not have a home to go? The kids explained who they were. They were from the progeny of Rasulullah, and that they had been in the prison. The lady had change of heart as well. She said, I'll provide shelter for you. Come inside my house. So they said, we only want to be here for one night and we'll be on our way. She provides, takes care of the kids, gives them food at that night. The 2 kids, for the first time, sleep well. Up until now, they were in a prison. Prison where they weren't given proper food. Prison, there wasn't proper facilities for them to sleep. Now they could sleep properly. But this lady had a relative who worked for Ibn Ziyad. When he came home, the lady tried to turn him away, but he made his way inside. He was agitated. He was angry. She said, what has gotten into you? He said, there are 2 kids that ran away from the prison of Ibn Ziyad, and he has given a reward. If you find one of the 2 kids, he will give you 1,000 dirham, and if you find both of them, 2,000. I've been running around the entire city all day, and I couldn't find these kids. The lady, she started fearing for the well-being of the children. She wanted to hide it from him, but he found out, And he said, the prize is sitting right in front of me. The prize is in my hand and in my house. So right away, this lady gave him sadaqah and said, look, how are you going to face Rasulullah on the day of judgment? These kids belong to the family of Rasulullah. Have some mercy upon them. Don't go after these dirham and dinar. They're not going to support and help you forever. They will eventually run out. But you don't want to gain the adhab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The man was blinded. He did not care for any of that. He took the two kids and he took them outside the next day, and he knew that he had to bring the heads of the kids, so he wanted to sever their heads. The children said, why do you want to kill us? Take us alive to Ibn Ziyad. The man was so cruel. He said, no, he only asked for your heads and I will give him your heads. If there's anything that you want to do, he ties them both up by the tree and he wants to go ahead and kill the first one. They said, is there something that we can do before we die? He said, yes, you can do. He said, we want to offer salat. He allows them. Look at the nurturing of these kids, that they want to pray. They know that death is near. The last act of theirs is to go ahead and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They stood up, they offered 2 rakat salat, and then they raised their little hands making dua. Oh Allah, be a judge between us and this man who showed no mercy to us. We pleaded to him to take us alive, yet he didn't listen to us. And then came a time, this Shaqi took his sword and he severed the head of one of the boys and he threw the body into the body of water. The other son, the other boy was looking. He was anxious. He was scared. And he was also praying at that same time. Just imagine what is going through his mind. He's seeing the killing of his own brother right in front of his eyes. And then came his turn. Soon after, he was also killed. His head was also taken and the body thrown into the water. Ajrukum Allah. These are the children of Muslim, known as the Tiflal Muslim. I would say, oh kids, you were better off in prison. I wish you had never come out of the prison. You would have still been alive. Ala la'natullah al-qawm al-zalimin. Wa sayalamu allazina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Matame Hussein, ya Hussein. Hussein.
आखिरी बार मुझे चेहरा दिखा दो मौला, आखिरी बार मुझे चेहरा दिखा दो मौला, तुम मेरी आँख से ये तीर हटा दो मौला, आखिरी बार मुझे चेहरा दिखा दो मौला, आखिरी बार चेहरा दिखा। है ये अफसोस कि मैं मिल भी न पाया उठ के, अब सहारे के लिए हाथ नहीं है मेरे, कैसे ताज़ीम करूं इतना बता दो मौला, आखिरी बार चेहरा दिखा दो मौला। शेष गाजी ने कहा मेरी वसीयत है सुनो, लेके खैमों में नहीं जाना मेरे लाशे को। आखिरी बार मेरा साथ निभा दो मौला। आखिरी बार मुझे चेहरा दिखा दो मौला। आखिरी बार मुझे लेके खैमों में जो एक बार में जाता पानी, अपने हाथों से सकी ना को पिलाता पानी। पानी मिल जाए सकी ना को दुआ दो मौला। आखिरी बार मुझे चेहरा दिखा दो मौला। आखिरी बार ज़ीन से ऐसे गिरा चेहरा मेरा ज़ख्मी है। अब मैं बेदस्त हूँ, ज़ख्मों में चुभन होती है। मेरे चेहरे पे लगी खाक हटा दो मौला। आखिरी बार मुझे चेहरा दिखा दो मौला। आखिरी बार मुझे
Hussein, 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 Hussein.